Let's say you're ready to hire an account manager. So who do you hire? When do you hire? How can you afford to hire them? How much do you pay them? Those are questions you're going to have. That's what today's video is going to be about. My name is Adam Hanneman. Welcome to Ramblings of a Geek. I spent the better part of the last couple of decades working in and around the MSP space. I spent quite a bit of time on the account management side of the world as well, so I'm pretty excited to continue on with this conversation today. If you remember that my previous video was all about the evolution of the role, this week is all about who to hire, when to hire, and how to hire them and how to pay them and those kinds of things. Next week's going to be all about the daily activities, monthly activities, different things that you want your account managers to be focusing on to get the most out of their clients and get the most out of the role. So this is a sort of a 3-episode arc. We're on episode 2, so let's head out on the ramble and get started. So when you think about the role of an account manager, there's a few different types of account managers I've seen in the wild. So the first role is sort of your traditional account manager, right? This is your standard account manager, if you will. They are largely responsible for keeping clients happy, doing roadmap conversations and those kinds of things. So this typical account manager may or may not be responsible for things like client retention, selling projects, and those kinds of things. It sort of depends on the role. Oftentimes, MSPs start with a traditional account manager because that's who they typically have. There's a little bit of a twist to this, which is more of an inside sales account manager, where this person is a little bit more responsible for the sales side of things, right? They might even have some sort of a quota or a target that they want to hit for projects sold or hardware to be replaced and those kinds of things. Their focus is a little bit more on the sales side of the world, right? They're just trying to kind of drive that a little bit more for their clients. The third one happens to be a technical account manager, or TAM. So if you hear me say TAM, I mean technical account manager. Your technical account managers are the people who are a little bit more in the weeds technically, right? They might even work tickets here and there. They might work escalations. They might even do projects, right? They are definitely more in the technical weeds of the business than your typical account manager would be. The skill set of your TAM, or technical account manager, might be a little bit more on the sales engineer side than a traditional account manager, right? The key differentiator between a technical account manager and a standard account manager is that they are just in the weeds more technically. Now, the fourth one is Virtual Chief Information Officer, or VCIO. Now, VCIOs should be aligned to really providing that strategic level direction with their clients. Oftentimes, they meet with the C-suite of their clients, and their clients are typically skew a little bigger than a traditional account manager would. And the key differentiator here is that it's very much more of a strategic conversation, a strategic relationship. Much like the TAM, your VCIO role definition might be dramatically different depending on the company you're talking about. So therein lies the problem. Many MSPs title their account management role a number of different things, and it could mean any number of different things. So understand that one company's TAM might be one company's VCIO, might be one company's standard account manager. It's a little bit of a quagmire. It's a little bit all over the place. And to be honest, it's a little bit annoying because when I hear an MSP talk about they have VCIOs, I ask them about what they're doing, and they are barely even having business review meetings with their clients. It leads me to believe that they heard VCIO from a Reddit thread or something and kind of like leaned into it, and they call their account managers VCIOs even though they're not really VCIOs in any way, shape, or form. It just happens to be one of those nuances with our industry. So then I have a couple different thoughts that I want to kind of lean into as it relates to these roles in a more general side of the world. The first thing is, I think it's really important that the overall goal of the account manager-client relationship is client happiness and satisfaction, selling projects to the client, make sure that they're moving things forward, especially as it relates to getting rid of aging out technology and bad practices and those kinds of things. And really ultimately keeping those clients from leaving your company as much as possible, right? One of the biggest benefits of your account management practice is the idea that they are able to keep clients around a little bit longer because of that extra relationship that they're building with your clients. So that's kind of that number one goal, in my opinion. My second thought here is that you need to be very careful about your designation of your account management role. If you're calling your account manager a TAM, or technical account manager, they should be fairly technical. If you're calling them a VCIO, they should have a really solid strategic lens on your clients' businesses, right? If you're calling them one of those two things in particular, and they're not doing those things, or that's not their capability, I may reconsider what I call them account managers. The third thought is, it's hard to find technical account managers and VCIOs. They're typically more expensive to hire, and there are fewer of them in the world. So if you happen to have one already, awesome. but trying to scale out your account management department by using TAMs and VCIOs is probably more difficult than hiring a standard account manager or someone who's a little bit more focused on those inside sales activities. So be mindful of that as you try to grow your business. If you are leaning into that, make sure that you're leaning into it and understand that it might be harder to find somebody else to fill those roles. In fact, it's an opportunity for you to hire a couple standard account managers and have a VCIO or TAM helping out on occasion, right? Maybe their client load is they have a few clients, but then they help out the other account managers. There's some options there. So just be thinking about that as you grow and try to expand your account management reach. Is that hiring a whole bunch of VCIOs is going to be expensive and harder to find those people. Now, the last thought on this section is you want your account managers managing accounts, not trying to close new business. Outside sales and account management are very different skill sets. You'll find one of two things probably happens when you try to tell your account management team to sell externally, right? And that means you're telling them to cold call and go to networking meetings and all those kinds of things. They're either going to lean in heavily on the sales side of the world and ignore the client side of the world, or they're going to lean in heavily on the client management side of the world and ignore the selling spot. Neither of those two things are desirable for you. So understand that those are very different levels of activities, very different types of people will want to run those roles as well. So be mindful of that. Now, I'm not saying your account managers can't ask for referrals, and they should ask for targeted referrals. I'll throw a video up above that talks about that a little bit. But the reality is that your account management team needs to focus on the client experience and moving your client networks and businesses forward. So be mindful of that as you work to hire and manage your account management team. It's important to understand who your account management team is and what you're expecting of them. And if I were to start over with a new account management team, I would very likely lean heavily into standard account managers or the inside sales account manager for the majority of what I'm looking for, and just maybe hire a VCIO or a TAM to help with those larger clients. But then again, you need to understand who your clients are. You need to have that target client profile figured out. And I would suggest that if you have a whole bunch of little clients, I would not then try to have a whole bunch of big clients, right? That's a thing that doesn't typically work. So be mindful of that and make sure that you are aligning the majority of your clients with your target client profile, which then should then lead to a little bit more solid answer as it relates to who you should be hiring as an account manager for your team. So I think as long as your focus of your account management team, no matter what you call them, helps keep your clients happy, keeps your roadmaps and those kinds of things up to date, and sells projects to keep your project team rocking and rolling, I think if you're doing those three things, I think you're doing a pretty good job. If you are getting some value out of this video, please do me a favor and go ahead and hit that like button. One of the next logical questions might be, when do I hire this account manager? When can I afford to hire this account manager? Those kinds of things. Now, if you're hiring your very first account manager, what I would suggest that you do is you figure out kind of when that breaking point is with you and your business trying to do all the things, right? I talked about this in the evolution of the role video where you go from doing all the things and you eventually need to hand it off. Well, as you get closer to needing to hand it off, you'll feel that you're not doing all the things that you should be doing for your clients. And so that's typically when you hire that first account manager, at least from a workload perspective. Now, if you have an account manager or an account management department already built out, you'll have a pretty good idea about how many clients and or how much revenue they can support. Now, if you don't have that data, what I might do is take a look at how many clients, how much revenue, how many endpoints, those kinds of things that each individual account managers are supporting, and understand that if they're at a breaking point or if you see some commonalities in there, that's probably when you want to consider hiring a new account manager based on workload alone. The flip side, though, is really all about making sure that you can afford it from a financial perspective. And lots of times I like to use the rule of 3x when it comes to bringing on new people. And that's not just account managers, but in this case, we'll lean into the account managers. And the rule of 3x, at least for me, says if this new person can generate or support 3x their annual salary by their daily activities or by bringing them on board, they're very likely going to pay for themselves, right? That's an important piece, right? You bring them on board, they generate and or support 3x their annual salary. That means that they're effective for you. So how do you get the 3x? Well, the first and obvious one is all about selling projects, right? They sell a number of projects throughout the course of a year. That's going to generate a bunch of revenue. That's an important thing. The second piece is the hardware that goes along either with the projects or things like hardware replacements for old workstations and those kinds of things. That's an important amount of revenue to be bringing in as well. And the third one, which is a little bit more fungible, is the amount of revenue that they can support, right? The idea is that when you have a good account manager, they keep your clients happy and they keep clients from leaving, or they can help keep clients from leaving. So make sure that you're kind of lean into those three things. When you're trying to hire your first account manager, there's also a component of when you bring them on board, they are going to offload a number of hours for you each week as a business owner. And when you step away from the account management role and into what probably is going to happen, which is going to be more of a business development and sales role, you know that you're going to generate more revenue based on just that alone. So there is an opportunity for you as a business owner to really maximize the benefit of bringing on a new account manager, because it frees you up to do other things, which helps hit that 3x a whole lot faster. Because frankly, at your stage, especially when you're hiring your first account manager, there's a lot of stuff that you can't just easily hire somebody for. And some of that first sales stuff is one of those things that's just tough. So you want to really focus on that and really step away from account management. That's why I talk about in the previous video of really stepping away from account management as quickly as you can without abdicating it, obviously. But it's important that you step into that sales role and away from account management fairly quickly. And that will also help you hit your 3x. Ultimately, it's a mix of consistently having good business review meetings and generating those additional projects and keeping clients happy. If you do that consistently over time, your account management team should pay for itself pretty easily. The last section of this video is all about compensating your account managers. So how do you want to compensate this very important side of the business? Most businesses that I talk to have some version of a base plus a bonus, right? That's a pretty straightforward thing to do and think about. Now, here's the thing, is that you want to make sure that that bonus incentivizes them to do the things you want them to do, right? Do you want to sell more projects? Incentivize that. Do you want to make sure that the agreements are profitable and that you have a solid agreement efficiency ratio? Incentivize that. Do you want them to hit all of their strategic business review meetings with their partners? Incentivize that, right? There's an opportunity to mix and match a number of different pieces here that will allow you to drive the responsibilities and roles and actions that you really want them to hit. Now, when you do this well and in the right way, it might put a little bit of pressure on your service team, and I think that's perfectly fine, as long as that pressure is healthy pressure, right? You want to incentivize the account management team to do the right things for your clients, which does the right stuff for your business, which then forces your service team to be able to support all of the changes and stuff that go on in there. And the key here is that it should be all one part of a bigger process of really keeping the clients happy. So that's one of the things I really want you to get in your head, is that the compensation package really incentivizes the behaviors you want to see, because people typically will follow that, especially if that bonus pool is relatively sizable. Now, I'm not talking tens and 15s and 20s of thousands of dollars sizable, but more than a couple $100, right? So if your quarterly bonus is like a couple $100, $400 or $500, it's probably not going to move the needle. But if your quarterly bonus is a couple grand, or $3, $4, $5,000, it's probably going to move the needle a little bit. So it's important to think about their total compensation as a base plus a sizable enough chunk of bonus to really move the needle and give them some upside on doing a really good job, right? The whole point of this is to keep your clients healthy and generating more revenue for you. And if they're able to do that, I think they should compensate them appropriately for it. One of the things I hear from MSP business owners frequently is that they don't want their account managers to have this unlimited upside. So you might want to cap it somewhere in there and have it be reasonable. But you also make sure that the goals are attainable as well. You don't want to set the goals so far high and out there that they can't ever hit them. So make sure that they're attainable, but not easy to get to. And I think overall, you're going to have a really solid account management practice. So ultimately, if you build the compensation to keep your clients happy, keep your client environments up to date, and sell new projects, I think as long as you can incentivize those things, I think you're doing a pretty good job. I think your account managers are going to be successful, and I think your clients are ultimately going to be happy with you and your business practices. Whew. That's a lot of different things to cover in a video, but hopefully there was some value there for you. And thanks for coming on this ramble with me, and hope to see you on the next one.